So here's some of those keywords I was mentioning. We wrote the position statement, was released in 2012 from NAEYC and the Fred Rogers Center. It was a joint position statement. We worked on it for 3 years leading up to the release of the statement because the field was very unsettled and unsure at the time. Back in 2010 when the iPad was first arriving, we weren't sure whether we thought this was a good idea or a bad idea. Again, we were caught in that false dichotomy. So we took a lot of time. We tried to build consensus around this. We tried to say, while we don't have the research yet on tablet computers in young children, we have a hunch based on what we know about child development and early learning that this particular technology could be very beneficial, but it has to be used in certain ways. So we took the concept that technology was a tool, and you have lots of tools for teaching and learning at your command and that you use every day. This is just one more. And yes, it can be an expensive one more. And so that gives us some pause to reflect on. But these are tools. And if we put tools in the hands of young children to learn with, then now they're off and running, and their success in life and in school are so much higher. Intentionality, of course, is one of those best practices of great teaching, that you know what you want to do, when you want to do it, why you want to do it. You have a wonderful sense of doing things on purpose. And Fred Rogers, again, was a great example of someone who did everything out of great intent. Nothing that you ever saw on Fred's show or ever heard him say or write wasn't without a deep sense of intention. We talked about appropriate, because that's the appropriate practices framework. Integrated, which is the word we started with when Amy introduced us a while back, this notion that technology doesn't stand alone in a classroom. Technology has to be integrated deeply throughout the classroom, throughout the environment, and across the curriculum. That it's interactive, and yes, I do want kids to play with interactive games where what happens on the screen and what they do interacts with each other, but I also want us to be interacting with each other. So interactive media with interactions with others is what I really care about. And so there you see the word interactive below. Quality content, is this time well spent for a child to be spending time on this technology because the content is educational and valuable. Joint engagement is really an important one we're going to come back to a couple of times. This notion of when a parent and a child or a teacher and a child sit together and have a joint experience around technology, it's much richer than if the child is just looking at the screen by themselves. Access and equity we talked about. Professional development, which is what we're doing right now. We really need to put the word ongoing professional development there, because this stuff is changing so fast. There's new technologies we didn't have a year ago and that we're now using every day, and that will continue to be the case. So we need to be in a situation where, as educators, we are educating ourselves about the new technologies as they come along. We need to select, use, integrate, and evaluate technology. There's that process you use for every decision you make in a classroom. And then this notion of nudging you to become a media curator. What's the best of the best? There's so much out there. How do you make choices for the classroom? How do you help parents make choices as a curator? And I really think that's a powerful notion and role for you. And then again, this idea of mentor, which I'll define in a little bit. Let me share this quote from the position statement. Early childhood educators always should use their knowledge of child development and effective practices to carefully and intentionally select and use technology and media if and when, underlined, it serves healthy development, learning, creativity, interactions with others, and relationships. There you go. Actually, to me, that says it all. That says so much of what we cared about and wrote about in this position statement. We're depending on you as educators to use what you know about child development, to use what you know about great teaching and learning, to use what you know about the children that are sitting in front of you, either remotely or in the classroom, to then be thoughtful and intentional, mindful, to make your choices about technology, if and when, right? And the if and when is, it's got to serve healthy development. It's got to be good for kids' learning. It needs to promote creativity and interactions with others. And it certainly needs to be embedded in the notion of relationships as the most important thing. When those things are there, then the technology you've chosen and the way you're using it are exactly what we want to have happen. When that's not there, then we need to put the technology aside, make a different choice, find a different moment to introduce the technology because it's not serving children well. So here's the first of our pause here moments. We want you to take a couple of minutes to just review the list of keywords below. I just selected some of them. Select 3 that resonate with you the most, those powerful ideas I mentioned earlier. Write a couple of sentences about why they are important and what you do to demonstrate them in your teaching practice and how technology course could fit in with that. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to think about that. When you're ready, click on it and we'll continue the presentation. See you in a minute. All right, welcome back. A couple of other quotes from the position statement. And when I present and I share these quotes, I'm reminded of the process that we went through and the thought leaders that we gathered around to help us do this writing. But I'm also, you know, I'm proud. I'm pleased with the fact that these words hold up. So many years later, from 2012 to today, they're still relevant. They can still guide our thinking, and they can still guide our practice. So here's the first one. When used wisely, technology and media can support learning and relationships. Enjoyable and engaging shared experiences that optimize the potential for children's learning and development can support children's relationships both with adults and their peers. Used wisely. There's that intentionality again. There's that developmentally appropriate idea again. There's that you're the teacher and you know how to make these choices, right? But again, this notion of supporting relationships is so critical for young children. Early childhood educators are the decision makers in whether, how, what, when, and why technology and media are implemented through applying their expertise and knowledge of child development and learning, individual children's interests and readiness, and the social and cultural context in which children live. How, what, when, why, intentionality again, put the big circle around the words decision makers. These are the choices you're making. You're the educator. You're looking at the children in your classroom. You're looking at a particular child and what his or her needs are, and you're making a decision about how technology and media might be implemented, might be used best. And again, it comes down to what you already know. I hear lots of teachers say to me, I don't know anything about technology. And I stop them and I say, wait a second. You know child development, you know early learning, you know the child you're thinking of and working with, right? You've got all of that. You know what great teaching looks like and feels like for you and for the learners. And so you're really ready for this conversation around technology. It always comes back to those basics, fundamentals of what underpins our work. And then one more. When the integration of technology and interactive media in early childhood programs is built upon solid developmental foundations, and early childhood professionals are aware of both the challenges and the opportunities, educators are positioned to improve program quality by intentionally leveraging the potential of technology and media for the benefit of every child. So again, underline under every child, developmental foundations, challenges and opportunities is not either or, it's not just the problems or just the great stuff, it's both, always both, and then intentionality and leveraging potential. So, you know, you see how the words start to come back around, but what they really come back around to is you. Fundamentally, you're at the key place in this whole conversation. You have the technology, you have what you know about teaching and your teaching skills and abilities, and then you have the child in front of you. You're the one that's going to make the decisions about that.